Hi, it's Mr. Meister, and I am here to tell you about your first video segment assignment that you're going to be starting up real soon. Hopefully by now you have received this sheet of paper that says what's my line on it. It will describe to you what the assignment is about, what I want you to learn, probably give you some hints on how to actually complete the assignment in the most successful and easy way for you. On the back side of it, there's also a rubric, so you kind of know exactly what it is I'm going to be looking for in this completed assignment. If you haven't had a chance to read this already, read it right now, pause the video, and we'll continue in just a second. So, assuming you know what this assignment is about now after reading that, what I want to do is actually show you an example of a completed What's My Line assignment so you kind of get a better grasp of what it's all about. So let's take a look at a finished one right now.
Dyslexia is a learning disability characterized by difficulty with reading.
There are more than 3 million cases per year.
And it can last for years or be lifelong.
Common symptoms are a delay in speech, reading, and trouble understanding or thinking.
Dyslexia is the most common learning disability.
Every 1 in 5 people suffer from dyslexia.
So it's not a disease, so there is no cure.
In most cases, it can be self-diagnosed.
They can see a therapist or doctor to receive help.
So hopefully that video kind of helps you understand better what it is I'm going to be asking you to do. What this assignment is about you writing about any topic you want. You can do it on the Chicago Bears, you could do it on the history of the Barbie doll, the importance of recycling. It really doesn't matter to me what the topic is. My only real requirement is that it's something researchable, something that you are educating me on. After I watch your video, I should have a good idea, or I should have learned something that I hopefully didn't know before. So please don't write, well, basketball is this game where there's this orange ball and you bounce it on the floor and you try and score a point. All right. Everybody already knows that, all right? Go deeper. Teach me something about the game maybe that I didn't know, or who founded it, or the history of it, or something amazing and interesting. Don't overthink a topic. You can pick any topic you want, but some people get really stuck on picking the perfect topic. It really doesn't matter. What I want you to do is to write 10 sentences on your topic. Not just 10 random facts. It needs to be like a mini research paper where there is a beginning, a middle, and an end. I shouldn't be able to switch the lines around. If I do, it won't make sense. So make sure it flows as I'm listening to the whole video there. All right? Now, as you are writing this out, once your script is written, the next time we meet together in class, you are actually going to take your script out and you're going to ask people to read the various lines that you've written. And the goal is obviously, once you get all those pieces recorded, you're going to come back to the classroom and you're going to edit all those pieces together. Now, before we get too much into the nuts and bolts about gathering footage and all that, let me first show you another video. And as you're picking a topic and as you're thinking about, what do I write, listen to this next one, and hopefully this will help answer some of those questions about writing out your script. So let's take a look. There's good stuff and there's some bad stuff.
Did you know
That the United States has one of the highest
teen pregnancy rates.
in the world?
Our 17 to 19 age groups has the highest.
Teen pregnancy rate followed by the 15 to 17 age group.
Each year, about 750,000 women between ages 15 and 19 become pregnant.
425,000 of those people have live births.
215,000 have abortions.
and about 117,000 have fetal losses.
At such a young age, teenagers are unequipped both financially and emotionally.
They have to deal with all the repercussions, such as
Facing both their parents and their peers, and
Ultimately, they wouldn't be able to give a child a stable life.
To avoid all these hardships,
Stay abstinent.
So let me start off with the bad part of that video first. And that is that the student who wrote this thought that they would save themselves a little bit of headache, and rather than writing out all these complete sentences, they wrote out fewer sentences and then just chopped them in half. And then had people read each half of the sentence. Now, when people talk in a complete sentence, when they get to the end of the sentence, their voice just kind of tapers off. And then the new sentence begins. But when you chop someone up mid-sentence, it's kind of awkward. People talk at different speeds, they talk at a different pitch with their voice, different inflections. And so when you try and put these two different pieces together, it usually doesn't flow real well. So I would not advise you to write in little pieces. Be honest about it and just write me 10 complete sentences. All right? Now, let's talk about the 10 complete sentences that they wrote for this video you just saw. Very well done. They clearly did their homework. I mean, there were so many facts and figures in there that it shows me that they went out and they researched this topic and they took all this information and they made it their own and had a beginning, a middle, and an end to their story. And it's a very well written story. And so that's what I do want to see you do with your topic as well, whatever your topic may be. Now, while we're talking about, okay, what is it you're supposed to be doing, every one of these segment assignments usually has at least 2 objectives that I really want you to focus on. Yes, you're writing, and yes, you're filming, and you need to get good shots. But in this particular assignment, there's 2 things that I'm going to be grading pretty heavily. The first thing is you need to learn how to coach your talent. Anyone can pick up a camera, hit record, and film what happens. It takes someone with a little bit more skill to say, here's what I want to see happen. I can see it in my head. And then when they hit the record, they make that happen in front of the camera. And if you're not seeing what's in your head, then you need to say, okay, that was pretty good, but I need you to do it differently. Let me give you an example. Let's pretend the first line of your topic was recycling is really important. So you give your script to someone and you say, hey, can you read this line? And they're like, sure. Recycling is really important. Okay, then you stop them and say, okay, let me coach you here. I need you to look into the camera. I need there to be eye contact. So they look at their line and they're like, recycling is really important, okay? Now it's good, you've worked on that eye contact, but now we need to work on how they're talking, all right? They sound kind of monotone, sound kind of dead. There's not a whole lot of acting going on here. So you tell them what I'm looking for. Hey, I need you to sound a little bit more lively. Recycling is really important. Okay, that was better, but now you maybe can even be more, coach a little bit more on this and say, hey, could you really emphasize the word recycling to really draw emphasis to that? And they're like, okay, fine, sure. Did you know that recycling is really important, all right? What you're doing here is the same thing a coach does with any sports team. He's working with his athletes to get the performance out of them that he's looking for to make sure that they're going to be successful. You need to do the same thing when you are recording your talent. Don't settle for the first time you hit record. So objective number 1 is to coach your talent. Make sure they know what it is you want them to do, and if they're not doing it, help them along. Don't say, you're a moron, you're not a good reader. Help them, all right? The same way a coach doesn't say, you're a moron, you don't know how to play. They work with you until they get what they want from you. The second main objective that I want you to learn from this What's My Line assignment is timing. You need to know when to begin a scene and when to end a scene, and this assignment is all about that. Now in the tutorial, you have basically been told by me in the instructions that say, hey, when I walk out of the scene, wait 2 seconds and then cut it. And then when the new scene begins, wait 2 seconds and then, start moving forward. And that 2-second rule, there's no rule anywhere that says that you have to do that. That's what I told you to do for the tutorial, but as you're making your own video, you're going to have to decide what's most important to you. Let me give you an example. Let's pretend I sent 2 of you out to play catch with a football and I was filming you. And so the person who's throwing the ball, you step back and I see you holding the ball, and then I see you pumping, and then I see you throwing the ball, and then I see you watching as the ball is in the air, and you're still on watching, and still watching, and still watching. And then finally I cut to the scene of the receiver who's like, oh, 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 some good acting here, huh? Oh, and then finally they catch it. Now, when you edit these 2 together the way I described, is it going to look realistic? Of course not. Way too much time from when the ball was released until it was caught. Well, this assignment basically allows you to do that. Now, I'm not going to send you out and play catch and say film and edit it together, but by you talking and reading all these lines together, it's going to make the exact same thing happen. For example, if the first line is, did you know recycling is really important? And the second line is, if we all do our part, this world would be a better place. let me do those 2 lines with no gap in between. Did you know recycling is really important? If we all did our part, it'd be a better place. Does that sound natural? Not at all. Does this sound natural? Case number 2. Do you know recycling is really important? If we all did our part, the world would be a better place. Obviously, in the first one, the timing was too short. In the second one, it was too long from where one thing ended and the next one began. This assignment is about you deciding how much time to put in between each of your lines, all right? And that's your call. And the best way to do that, I tell students, is as you are editing it and putting it together, close your eyes and listen to it. And you'll see, oh, that doesn't sound natural. The idea is to get it to sound as if it's one person talking all the way through, all right? So let me show you another example. Sometimes I show you good examples, sometimes I show you really bad examples. And I'm not showing you really bad examples to make these people who made these videos feel bad. What I'm trying to do is to keep you from making the exact same mistake. I'm showing you these examples because they're very common mistakes, and I don't want you to make those same mistakes. I want you to be ahead of that curve and make better videos. So watch this video. And there's a ton of things that are not good about it. See if you can pick at least 4 or 5 of those things out.
On July 4th, there was a party.
And there was drinking.
On that same night.
3 adults got in a car and the driver was drunk.
Only the passenger wore a seatbelt. They were going
Like 65 miles per hour.
in a 35-mile-an-hour
Zone as they turned the curve.
They were going
Too fast.
To handle the curve and they went off.
the road and
Went through the
guardrail.
They flew into a tree.
The driver went.
Through the windshield.
And the back
Number 3 passenger,
went through the window.
the only survivor. The passenger. Because she wore a seatbelt.
Remember, don't drink.
And drive because you'll get
Hurt and always wear your seatbelt.
This is a true story, and my sister was the passenger.
Hopefully you were able to catch a couple of the mistakes in there, all right? I'll just go through a couple of them really fast. Number 1, it's not a real research topic. If you stop and think about it, it was a story that someone was telling about their sister, all right? Yes, it's a sad story or a heartwarming story, or however you want to think of it, but nonetheless, there really wasn't an element of research to it. Don't make that mistake. Number 2, I'm sure you probably noticed that they cut all those sentences up into like 3 or 4 pieces, and that's why people are talking like this, and it doesn't flow real well, all right? It's real obnoxious. And again, if you write out a complete sentence and have them read that complete sentence, it'll flow much better, all right? The other thing I wanted to point out about that is, did you catch where it was all filmed? It was all filmed upstairs in the library. It lacked that visual diversity that's going to draw your audience in and make them want to keep watching. It just, honestly, visually kind of gets boring. So when you combine that with the mistake of the pacing of how it was edited, and you combine that with the boringness of what you're seeing, and that it's not a real story, I think you would agree it's probably not the world's greatest video. Now, this is not some obscure video that I had to go back 10 years to find. I could find other ones from last term that do the exact same thing. Matter of fact, let me show you another very common problem students have when they're making videos, and let's take a look at this one here.
Basketball is my favorite sport because it is really fun. It helps me stay in shape. With strenuous practices. Or just go somewhere else.
And great teamwork.
The team strives to do better. Hence,
make it.
Underline High School basketball. The best!
Hopefully I really don't need to spend too much time talking about it. Number 1, it's a really, not the topic is lame, but what they did with it was lame. When you stop and think about it, did they really say anything about basketball that you didn't already know? But more so, I show you that clip because the timing is just horrible with it. It doesn't sound natural in the least bit. So I showed you some good videos. I showed you some bad ones, some mistakes. How do I help you get going on this assignment for yourself? Well, I need to do a couple things tonight. The first thing I need you to do is I need you to write out a script. And again, it can be on any topic you want. don't overthink this. When you write out your script, don't write it out in a paragraph format. I would advise you to write it out like this, where you have line 1 and you see what the sentence is. And then you have line 2 and line 3 and line 4, and there's even a little space over at the beginning of every sentence. That would be the easiest way to write that out. And the reason I have you write it that way is when you all get to class tomorrow, I'm going to send all of you out, each with your own script, each with your own camera. As I said earlier, you're going to go out and you're going to all maybe leave the library and go down to the front part of the school, maybe outside of the school, and you're going to film that first scene. And you're going to pair up and you're going to say, hey, will you read one of my lines? Now the reason I have that space there is so that you can write down who reads each line. When you've been working on the tutorial, it's really easy to see what scene 5 is. I'm holding up a big number 5 and it's not hard to figure that out. However, when you're going to edit all these pieces together, you're not going to remember who read line 5 and who read line 6, and you're not really going to know. So it'd be real easy to look back to the script and say, oh, line 6 was that brown shirt guy, that old guy, you know, the guy with the gray hair, all right? Now it's real easy to you scrub through all your footage. Oh, there he is. There's the old guy, and then you can start using that. All right, now I'm getting to something that maybe you're thinking, wait, Mr. Meister, you're making this harder than it needs to be. When you are out filming, the second thing I want you to bear in mind when you're filming is that I want you to film this in a random order. Now you might be, random order, Mr. Meister, that's going to make editing so much harder. It would be so much easier if I could just edit in line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, and take the pieces I want. But if you filmed in order, what's going to happen is, as you are looking at your final piece, you're going to see the path that you took around the school as you were gathering all your footage. First we were by the front desk, then we walked down by the guidance office, then we walked to the trophy hallway, then we walked down to the lunchroom, and I'm going to see that path, and it's really not going to have any diversity to it. Think of those first few videos I showed you where you were all over the building, classrooms and outside and in the hallway and in offices, and you want that visual diversity. And so by filming it in a random order, you kind of assure the fact that it's really going to look random about it. All right, it's going to be a little bit harder when you're editing, but I think it'll look much better, and when you're done, I think you'll agree. So again, it's really important when you're filming that you write down the names since it's in a random order so you know which piece you're looking for. Otherwise, you're going to waste a lot of time scrubbing through your footage. Hang on to these scripts while you're editing because it's really important so you know you have this guide for yourself. Now, I get into the next thing and that is when you are out filming, you're going to have your script, you're going to be with your group. It's going to be very tempting to be like, oh, cool, freedom. And you want to look for all your friends and have your friends in your video, or if your topic is about theater, you think, oh, well, I got to go to the theater department and interview all the theater people. This is not an assignment about me seeing who all the perfect people are for your video. I want to look at your writing, I want to look at your coaching, and I want to look at your timing and pacing. Notice nowhere in there does it say, are all the right people in it? So make that be your focus. And the best thing for you to do is when you're out filming is stay with your group of 10 or 12 people right here in this class. Who do you think is the most coachable, that understands this assignment? The 10 or 12 people right in your group. While we're on the topic of walking around the building and filming, the last thing that I want to say is when you are gathering your footage, like right now in this video, I am perfectly centered, this way and this way, and it's okay for a tutorial, but if you were filming a bunch of different people in a bunch of different spots, the last thing you want to do is always have them perfectly centered. So as you are filming, start randomly and maybe put someone over here where they're a little smaller, someone way up close over here. The point is, by mixing up where the people are on the screen, it's going to make it much more interesting to look at. All right. Again, anyone can pick up a camera and hit record, but put a little bit more thought into what's in the foreground. Where is my subject placed? What's going on in the background? And you're going to probably see a cooler video. Let me show you an example of a video that a student made that I think demonstrates exactly what I'm talking about and what I want you to do. I'm going to intentionally turn down the volume because I want your focus to be on what you are seeing, not so much what you're hearing. So let's take a look at it now. So you have a shot of the girl here, wide shot on the right, closer guy on the right, now person on the left. She's centered, he's on the left, extreme close-up on the left. Now we got a guy on the right, another guy on the right. Notice the diversity of backgrounds as well. We are in the bathroom, we're in the hallway, we're in classrooms, we're all over this building, and your audience gets that visual diversity that they're looking for. Every person is positioned differently, and they're in different locations. Hopefully that kind of helps, so when you're filming your What's My Line assignment, you're keeping that in mind as well. Yeah, I got to coach talent. Yeah, I got to pay attention to pacing. But while you're gathering your footage, I'm hoping you're focusing a little bit on what is in and out of your shot. Don't center everybody and make it all perfectly centered. Mix it up a little bit. So that kind of concludes what I want to say about this video. A couple things that I want you to do for tonight. I already mentioned you need to write out your script. You can't come to class without having your script ready to go, printed, so I can put a camera in your hand and say, get out the door and start filming. Ideally, these usually take 1 day to film, but if you spend the first 10 or 15 minutes printing out your script or writing your script or, oh, it's on my phone, I got to get it off of my phone, you're going to lose that time and you're going to fall behind real quickly on the assignment. I'm not going to let you leave this classroom tomorrow unless you have that script in your hand ready to go. The second thing I want you to have for tomorrow's class is at the end of this video, you're going to see a couple of questions. I want you to answer those questions. It'll give me some feedback to make sure you truly understand what's going on with this assignment, and it'll also force you to reflect back on some important key points that I want to make sure you didn't miss because you were just quickly watching the video. I hope you're excited about your first segment assignment. I love these segment assignments, and I hope you find as much fun with them as I do. So that's all. Have a good rest of the day and get your work done. Bye.